All right, guys, this is a quiz review, so you know how this goes. You do the problems, then I put the answer down, see if you're getting it right. Okay? We have a series of problems. You're going to look and see if you got them right. If you didn't get them right, if you get them all right, you're ready for the quiz. If you didn't get them all right, then you want the ones you made mistakes on, you need to go back and review and see if you can catch your mistake. And if you can't catch your mistake, then watch the video to see if I catch your mistake. And if I don't catch your mistake and you don't understand where your mistake was, then you need to come to class and ask some questions while we go through the review. All right. Okay, here we go. So do these 3 problems and hit pause. Do the 3 problems. This is in your packet, in your notes packet. So do these 3 problems and move on. Okay. So when you look at this first one, you should have gotten that it was 39 cents per screw. Now, one of the things I'm going to see a common mistake is, and we'll talk about it again in class, is you need to make sure that this is how you put the dollar sign, right? We know that we discussed it the other day that some of you are used to seeing this 39 cents, and that's correct, but this is how we write 39 cents in terms of dollars. If you wrote 39 cents per screw on a show work document, I would accept it. I'm not sure if that's what Alex will accept. I think it's going to want 0.39 with a dollar symbol there. Okay, and you got to make sure it's that's your solution. If you don't understand it, what you got, you're going to look at it. If you didn't get it right, you're going to look at it, see if you can figure out what you did wrong from what I have written. And if you don't know what you did wrong, you can't fix the mistake, then you're going to come back and watch the rest of the video, right? Trying to make this quick for you guys. So then number 2 would be $1.41 per stick. Remember, that's always our goal, is to just get one of the base unit. That's why we call it a unit rate. And then when we look at the gummies, they come out to $5.90 per pound. And the hearts come out to be $6.63 per pound. Remember, it asks the question, state which candy is the better buy based on the unit price. So once it says state, you got to write your word out. You got to tell me what you just found, right? And it's because they're the better buy. Notice it's saying based on the unit price, because you may not even like gummies, but you like hearts. It might be a Valentine's activity, and so you're seeing you need the hearts more. So that might not even matter how much it costs, but that's for a later discussion. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next problem. Okay, so this is the next page of the review, right? It's this is all written out. All the numbers are in there. It's all these numbers are written in your note packet, right? Okay, so now do these 4 problems. Let's see if you come up with the right answer for that. Hit pause right now, then see if you can answer these correctly. And once you've answered them, hit play and see if you have the right answer. Again, if you don't have the right answer, then you're going to check, see if you understand what you did wrong. If you don't understand what you did wrong, then you probably need to, at the end, go back and review how to do those problems. Okay? So we're going to make this as quick as possible for those of you that do understand, and just so you know you're getting the right answers. And those of you that aren't understanding, you watch the end of it, and it tells you how to do them. Okay? All right, go. All right, so let's look at these. On this first one with the book reading, it's going to be 5/16 chapters per hour. Okay. For the cronuts and the donuts, for every 13 donuts, we could just say donuts, there's 10 cronuts. If you don't know what a cronut is, you got to go find out. Okay. And on the second one, for every 3 maple bars, there's 10 cronuts. So it's 3 to 10 ratio. Okay. Now this one we did in some of the classes. We talked about this one, but if you don't understand it, we'll talk about it again. But I'm pretty sure we talked about it in one of the videos. So when you look at this, the only 2 statements that are true are the 2 middle statements. If any of them are true, none of the above doesn't work. And it says 13 Xboxes when there's only the 7 Xboxes, because this is the Xbox and this is the PlayStations. Okay, because it tells us we go PlayStation 5s to Xbox. So that's what that colon means, is the 2. So there's 13 PlayStation 5s for every 7 Xboxes, and 13 plus 7 is 20. Okay, that's describing what to do with it. Okay, so I'm taking more time than I wanted to. Okay, and this next one, remember that it says to write it as a fraction in simplest form. And so we're always going to write these in simplest form, right? So if they didn't tell you to write it as a fraction, you would write it as 3 to 2. And if you do write it as a fraction, it's going to be 3 to 2. So that's what it's going to look like. Okay. All right. So again, you're looking these over, checking to see which ones you got right. Celebrate that. The ones you made mistakes on, go look, see if you can spot your mistake. If you can spot your mistake and correct yourself, write yourself a note over here to remind yourself how to do it right. And then do it correctly without those errors. And be careful. Again, I would always put labels and units in there, because that's what keeps you safe. Okay, so as long as you got all the units, you labeled it with your units are in the right place, you've shown your work, then if you've aced this, you're done. Okay, that means this was a 9-minute video for you. You did your work. So it probably took you about 20 minutes to do the work. All right. If it took you more than 3 minutes per problem, then you probably got questions you need to ask, right? Go back, review your notes, come into class, see if you know what you're doing, answer the questions, okay? Ask me questions so I can answer your questions. So now you can go ahead, if you got 100% on this, you can go ahead and stop and you're done. If you didn't get 100% on this, then you should be, and you can't see where your mistakes were, then you still need to pay attention to the video and go back into your notes, and we'll finish writing all the steps and I'll explain the stuff in depth. But only watch the ones that you either want to make sure you understand but mostly watch the ones that you didn't get right, that you made mistakes on, so you can spot your mistake. Okay. Okay, if you're done, hey, see you in class and good luck on this review, and the quiz is coming up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so those of you that did this first problem, again, we're just looking at what our units are, right? So if we're looking at our units, we're looking at that per, that tells us where the dividing is. Remember I told you in class that this means per. That's where you'd put the per, right? When we're talking about a unit price, we're always talking about that we're going to get one of the unit that's on the bottom. So it tells us we're going to do per screw. So that means on the bottom here, we need to have screw. And we're doing dollars per screw, so that means up on top, we should have dollars. Okay? So if I were you, I would always write that. Then the next step would be, say, well, I'm going to put how many dollars? They give me my initial situation, and it's $19.50. So I'm going to put $19.50 here. And I got 50 screws, so I'm going to put a 50 here, right? And now, so really what I'm doing is, to get to one screw, I have to divide this by 50, which if I'm going to keep these proportional, and equivalent, then I'm going to have to divide this by 50. And when I divide 19.5 times divided by 50, I get 0.39. So the way you'd write it in dollars is you would say this is dollars, dollar symbol up in front, 0.39. That's basically what that means is 39 cents, right? But I don't think they have a cents key. If they do, then you can use that. But you have to remember that means it's less than a dollar, right? So since it's less than a dollar, it's 0.39. Okay? All right, that's how we do that one. Now again, this one, we're looking and it tells us that we've got dollars per stick, right? So that's what I write over here. All I'm doing over here is saying, this is what my units are. I need to make sure that my numerator is the dollars, my denominator is the sticks. If I'm going for a unit rate, because it tells me to find the unit price, I'm going to try to find what one stick would cost. How much does it cost me for one stick? Okay. They tell me that I'm going to get 32 sticks. So that means I'm going to put 32 down here. And that's going to cost $45. So I'm going to put this here. And then, of course, what I'm doing is I've got to divide this by 32 to get 1, which means I have to divide this by 32, which comes out to 1.40624 or 5. Right? But remember, I'm rounding to the nearest cent. So that means I'm doing to the nearest hundredth. Okay? Which means now I look at this, and that's a 6, means that's closer to 41 cents than 40 cents. So this becomes $1.41. Okay? Anybody got, if you got a question on that, come into class. But that's what we're doing with it, and so our answer is you pay $1.41 per stick. Okay? Now again, you're just looking, this is going to be a longer video because I'm explaining each problem in detail. Okay, so if you're struggling with this, then you gotta either all you have to do is watch the ones that you struggle with. Okay. Now again, I'm trying to really emphasize this. How do you set it up? Those of you that don't want to make mistakes, you got to make sure you're setting it up right. And so this first one is always just, this first column of setup is just, what are my units? Okay. And then when I look, I can see that it says that I'm comparing two candies, right? So it tells me I'm going to compare the gummy bites. And the question is, state which candy is the better buy based on unit price. So what I've got to do is figure out the unit price for each one. And again, they want me to answer the nearest cent. Okay. So when I look at the puffies, the gummy bites, it's 5 pounds for $29.50. So I'm going to say there's 5 pounds, right? 5 pounds at $29.50. And I want to know what it's going to take to get 1 pound, right? So I'm going to have to divide that by 5. And that means I have to divide this by 5. Okay. Now, when you do this, it's important to remember that your calculator is just going to round it to 5.9. But they want you to round to the nearest cent, and that's the nearest tenth. And cent means 100, right? 100th. So you're going to put a 0 there. So this was the answer on the calculator. You have to know to put that 0 in there. Okay? When they tell you to round to the nearest cent, you got to put that 0 in there when there's no cents. So there's 9 dimes and no pennies, right? Okay. And then when I look at the hearts, again, if I go look at the hearts are $9.95, right? So that's where I'm going to put here, $9.95 for 1.5 pounds. So I put 1.5 here. Now, of course, I'm going to try to get to 1, right? That's always the goal. So I'm going to divide by 1.5. And hopefully by now you're seeing a pattern, which means now I got to divide this by 1.5. Okay, and that comes out to 6.63333, right? It just keeps going on. But again, they want us to round to the nearest cent, right? So we're going to look right there at the hundredths place value. This is a 3, so it's closer to 63 cents than it is 64 cents. So we're going to say it's $6.63 per pound. And they say state, so as soon as they say state, you got to write out a sentence. But notice, all I did, the gummy bites, so I put that in because I'm making a choice, right? And then are, that's the plural of, that's a form of is, the better, by, based on the unit price, Notice that this right here is right here. All I did was put in the gummy bites, my choice, right? What my solution was. I put the gummy bites, and then basically just rewrote that sentence. So when you're writing out a sentence, that's all you have to do. Just write out the sentence, okay? All right, so let's move on to these next ones. Okay, so again, we're looking at chapters, right? This says we're doing in chapters per hour. So that means we got to have chapters here and hours on the bottom. So if I look, some of you got a different answer. If you got the inverse, right? If you got the inverse, then you inverted these two. You might even written the numbers down, but or the units down right, but you put the wrong numbers in. Because if I'm looking at chapters, that's 3/4. And my number of hours is 4/5. So if I look, what this means is, and we've talked about this being a complex number, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say this is 3/4 divided by 4/5, which means we're going to take 3/4 times 5/4 because we multiply by the reciprocal, right? So if I look right away, I could tell looking at this, I'm not going to be able to simplify this because neither 3 or 5, they're both primes, and 4 doesn't go into they don't go into 4, right? So these are called relatively prime, even though 4 is not a prime number. So I'm multiplying across, so that means I'm going to get 15/16. So this is 15/16 chapters per hour. Okay, because to get to 1, I needed to divide by 4/5. So I have to divide this by 4/5. All right. Whenever I do the top, I got to do the bottom, right? This is all called using scale factor. Okay. All right. So this next one, you basically have to remember that you're talking about A plus B equals the total, right? And so what I'm talking about is the total is the baker's dozen. So that's 13. And they told us we had 3 maples. So we could say this is our maples over here. We could say maples plus cronuts, right? We could just write this as maples plus cronuts equals total. And we know that we have 3 maples. So we're saying 3 plus C equals 13. Now, at this point, you have to show me that you solved, but if you use solving equations, you subtract 3 from both sides, you get that C equals 10, right? So there's 10 cronuts. So it might be valuable for you to just write that out. Look, I have 3 maple, and I have 10 cronuts, and I have 13 total. Okay? Because then we're talking, what are the ratio of donuts are cronuts? What ratio of donuts are cronuts? That could be written better, but so we're going to say how many are cronuts to total. So that's going to be 10 cronuts to 13 total, right? For every 13 donuts, we have 10 cronuts. Okay, and then the ratio of maple bars to cronuts. So we have to pay attention to that 2, and that means whatever we were going to do, we had to put down maple bars here, and then 2 means we're going to have this colon, right? The word 2, and then we're going to have cronuts. Then we just plug in the numbers. There's 3 maple bars, right? We had that over here. Right over here, we have there's 3 maple bars, and therefore there are 10 cronuts. So we have a 3 to 10 ratio. Okay, so now the tricky part of this one is just paying attention. So in class, I showed you, look, just write out the ratio. You got 13 to 7, and look at this, and they're saying PlayStation to Xbox. So that means if it's 13 to 7, this is our PlayStation, this is our Xbox, right? And that means the total would be the PlayStations plus the Xboxes would equal the total, right? How many we have all together. And so we had 13 PlayStations plus 7 Xboxes equals 20. All right, and so now we go over here. If we remember that, we just look for this for clues. We look, it says 13 Xbox owners for every 7 PlayStation owners. Well, no, that's the opposite of what we're talking about. So if there's 13 Xboxes, then this one can't be right. Okay, so the second one, that's actually a mistake. All right, so this should not be true, right? Because for that same reason, if we look, it says we have 7 PlayStations. Well, no, we have 13 PlayStations for every 20. So this is incorrect, right? Because that should be 13 PlayStations. Okay, and then this one says 7 Xboxes, which that checks. And there are 13 PlayStations. That checks. That number is accurate. So that's actually the only one that's right. Okay. And you can't say none of the above because one of them is true. Okay. All right. And then this last one here, Again, they give us 51 over 34, right? So I'm going to be honest with you, you could use your calculator to do that. But if I have 51 over 34, 51 is 3 times 17. 34 is 2 times 17. So the 17s simplify, right? Which means we're left with 3 out of 2. They didn't give us units, so we don't have to write units. Okay? All right. Well, so go back and see if you can figure out where your mistakes are. Remember, you've got to fast forward to this, so even though it takes 25 minutes, it's not what you need. So you don't have to watch the whole thing. Okay, good luck.